Portland City Council President Jamie Dunphy joins me now. He represents Portland's 1st District, which contains east and parts of northeast Portland. Council President Dunphy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is a new job for you. This is the first time we've gotten to talk with you in depth since you became Council President about a month ago. So tell us what that month has been like for you.
Yeah, it has been a month of herding cats that do not want to be herded. It's really learning the new role, understanding what the responsibilities of a council president, and really trying to almost reintroduce myself to my council colleagues to find how we're going to work together.
And that's a lot of people to try to work together, like you said, herding cats.
Absolutely. 11 other elected officials who are all smart and experienced and ready to do good things for the city of Portland, and we haven't quite figured out how fully to work as a team yet, but we're getting there.
Which sort of started at the election process for the president's position that was kind of deadlocked for a long time. Why was that?
You know, there are some real divisions on the council in terms of what the path forward for the city of Portland really is. I think that ultimately we have more in common with each other than not, but that really came out on full display that we're a new system and we're learning how to work together and how to pass laws and how to be the future of what Portland is going to be requiring. And so that's always going to be a messy process. It was messier than it needed to be, but it was always going to be messy.
And you brought up that division. 6 councilors, kind of part of a progressive caucus, 6 others more moderate. Is that creating that divide?
Certainly that's part of it, absolutely. The more progressive caucus of folks, which I was a member of, I have stepped away since, but I'm certainly still a progressive in terms of my own political ideology. But I think that only in Portland would we say that there's really any ideological spectrum. You know, the most conservative member of this city council would be a screaming liberal in Texas. But we do have real serious policy differences about how we accomplish what we're trying to do, what we're trying to serve, and who it is we're trying to serve. And those tensions are actually healthy, and hopefully they will be less unpleasant in the future.
What can you do to bridge that gap between clear out that division?
Yeah, I have taken on the responsibility of trying to be more of a facilitator than a powerful leader. I think the council president's job really is to make sure that all 11 councilors are getting as much information as they need, that there are systems in place to ensure fairness, and that everybody gets an opportunity to be heard, because that really is what this new system of government was about.
And you have been involved in both extensively with the City Commission. You worked with Nick Fish for a number of years. Compare that to this new form of government. Better or worse?
I would say this new system is better, and I really do think that. The old form of government really did not work, and we have spent a lot of the last year digging out from some of the messes that system really created. We're finding pots of money. We're streamlining staffing. We're trying to understand who are we serving and how are we doing that, and why are we duplicating efforts across bureaus. So I do think that this new system really is serving Portlanders better.
And speaking of pots of money, as you mentioned, there are currently $20.7 million of unspent funds within the Portland Housing Bureau's Rental Services Office, correct? And during a time when Portland's experienced a housing shortage and a homeless crisis especially, how is it possible that this money went unaccounted for until just recently?
A lot of these dollars are not lost, they were simply not spent yet. And it was a symptom of the old form of government, where, for example, if we have a small tax that collects dollars over a period of time, you can't do as much with $1 million as you can with $10 million. And so the pattern has historically been, we will let the rental services money accumulate until we have enough to spend. Or we will spend the money on transient lodging taxes, and we'll wait until we have enough to actually go build a building. But whatever reason, the accounting side of it didn't let the council know that those dollars existed. It wasn't that they were lost or misspent. It was simply that the old form of government raised its ugly head again, and we have a lot of bad habits we have to fix.
Is the new council considering a resolution to decide how to allocate these funds and any oversight?
Yeah, absolutely. We are trying to both figure out how can we get these rental dollars out specifically, as you mentioned, $20.7 million that are specifically dedicated to renters. How can we get those dollars out as quickly as possible to prevent people from falling into homelessness? There are other pots of money that are also in the affordable housing continuum, including some dollars to build affordable housing, some tax dollars that came from TIF districts and things like that simply haven't been allocated yet, and we need to build a full system around it to understand what can these dollars be used for, how urgently can we get those dollars out, and what can we not spend those dollars on, because there are a lot of complicated bookends around those.
And that's how we ensure those funds are spent appropriately?
Absolutely. It's got to be a public process. It has to be transparent. And I'm actively working with all 11 other colleagues right now to try and figure out what is the best way to do this. You know, unfortunately, the conversation we've had for the last few months was around the $20.7 million that we found. But in fact, the total pot of dollars is closer to $106 million. And that includes funding that is earmarked for building new buildings, things that are geographically located, but we don't actually have a real firm grasp yet of where those dollars need to go and where they can or cannot go.
Yeah. A recent report from the Portland Metro Chamber showed Portland's economy in crisis. That's their words, not mine, but we'll see if you agree with that. What can city leaders do to help with the city's economic recovery if that's the case?
Yeah, absolutely. It's undeniable that we're starting to see businesses close, that foot traffic has not returned downtown, and that it's broadly small businesses are struggling. We are a small business city. And access to capital, interest rates right now, it makes it really, really hard to start or sustain your business, especially downtown, but also outside of the downtown core and in my side of town on the east side. We need to do more to spur economic development, to support the businesses that are already here, and to find new ways to support businesses that want to open and make it easier and cheaper and faster to open your small business in this city.
A lot of workers still working in the office, maybe part-time, at home part-time, maybe all of one or the other.
Yeah.
But we're missing people downtown.
Yeah.
Is that the same situation on the west side as the east side where you
It's
take care
different.
of?
It's certainly different. You know, downtown was a concentration of office spaces. And that really, you know, the downtown economy was really, in a large part, sustained by those office workers going to lunch and going to get a $10 Subway sandwich. I don't think that economy is coming back, but those buildings are still down there, and we have to find a way to use those buildings and to get people out of their homes and into the public square and going about and shopping and going to restaurants and bars and live entertainment and live music and all the things that make a vibrant city happen, and give people a reason to want to be in this community.
And a lot of those buildings downtown, partly empty, some vacant completely.
Absolutely.
Makes the property value go down.
Absolutely.
What do you do to address that?
You know, there's a couple of things. One, the city's not going to be in a position to subsidize the rents for these tenants or anything like that. Yeah. But there are some specific circumstances in which maybe those office spaces could be converted into apartments. There's other ways where the city could be helpful with the ground floor retail and trying to increase the amount of foot traffic, whether it is making it easier for your small business to go and open the coffee shop in that vacant storefront, or let's put somebody temporarily in there. Let's put an artist in there, maybe a dance troupe or a pottery studio, something that is better than plywood on the glass and that inspires people to want to walk by and see what's going on and then go shopping next door or go to the restaurant or go to the bar down the street.
And we've seen a transition from the COVID period to now. Is it important to remind people that this doesn't just happen overnight? It takes months, years, decades.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, COVID was a generational trauma that happened to our community, and we're still dealing with the repercussions of that. And the economy has fundamentally shifted in some major ways because of that. And we don't really know what the new economy is going to look like. You pair that with a lot of global uncertainty and what is happening on the federal level. It makes everything really sort of uncertain, and it is hard to invest in a business when that level of uncertainty is happening.
Speaking of on the federal level, there's pressure on the city right now to revoke the South Portland Ice Facility's land use permit. There's been a lot of confusion about that process and where the city stands. Can you provide some clarity on that?
Yeah. So this is a administrative legal process. Very recently, I think this week, the city did again affirm that they are, in fact, in violation of their land use permit. They are, in fact, according to the administration, detaining people on site for longer than they are allowed to do. The landlord has legal rights. They have an ability to appeal these decisions, and we have to go through these processes. I know that there are folks in our community that simply want the city to come down and shut that facility down, but that is not something that we're going to be able to do right now. But we are taking it very seriously to try and limit the way that the feds are impacting neighbors, the way that they are using chemical munitions, and the way that they are truly just kidnapping neighbors off the streets. We are doing everything in our power to try and stop and slow that process. But ultimately, the city of Portland is not going to be in some sort of armed conflict with the federal government. We have to use the tools that we have, and we can't break the law in order to compensate for a federal government that simply doesn't care about our laws.
What do you say to the protesters who are asking for sanctions on the ICE building? They're saying the process is taking too long.
I completely understand their passion. I completely understand their want to see something happen in our community and the need to feel some level of control against tyranny, against a federal government that does not care about our neighbors, that does not care about our standard of living or the way that we choose to live here in Portland. I totally understand that, but we have to follow the rules. We cannot meet illegal actions with illegal actions. We have the tools that we have before us, and these processes are slow. But they're deliberate, they're intentional, and they have to be that way, because otherwise, I don't really know what we're fighting for.
Some people say we're fighting for an ICE facility here in Portland. There are people on the other end who say we need this facility. What do you say to them?
You know, I've talked to a lot of immigrant and refugee rights groups, the ACLU of Portland, Portland Immigrant Rights Center, these folks who are actually working with immigrant and refugee families, and they say that thousands of people go to this ICE facility every day in order to keep up with their paperwork, to make sure that their process for getting citizenship or legal status is in accordance with the law. And we understand that often people who go into that facility for basic paperwork aren't coming out on the other side. But if we don't have that facility in Portland, we're going to be shipping people to Eugene or Tacoma, where we can't get our legal services, where we can't get our community involved, and we can't get them the resources that they need. So unfortunately, that does play a really important role, and I've heard very loudly from the people who are actually doing the work with these communities that this facility, it plays a vital role.
So that's the difference to a lot of people, is that this facility does a good job, it helps people, but outside of the facility, there are things going on that they don't like.
You know, even within inside the facility, we see that ICE and federal law enforcement are doing a lot of bad things. But this is simply the facility where the administrative work happens, and we don't have another option right now. I absolutely understand that we don't want to see these jackbooted thugs in our community who are using chemical munitions against peaceful protesters. That is not what we're trying to defend. But within the realm of legal immigration services, this building plays a vital role. And I understand why protesters want to see this building gone. But for the thousands of families who live in this community, including thousands of families in my district of East Portland, they want to be here and they want to play the game. They want to do it according to the rules, and that means they have to show up to their appointments. And if they don't show up to their appointments, they are putting themselves at serious risk.
Well, what are your priorities and what are the options? Do we move the ICE facility somewhere else and the same thing just happens there?
I mean, almost certainly. There's the ICE is the most well-funded federal police force in the world. They dwarf what the city of Portland's budget is for the ability to do law enforcement. We're not going to be in direct conflict with ICE in any sort of meaningful way. We're not starting a civil war. But we cannot tolerate the kind of violence that we are seeing from our civil servants. These are civil servants who are working for us, and we understand that they're coming from a federal government that does not care about us locally and wants to inflict punishment and create spectacle on TV. But gosh, Portlanders have been showing up in the exact right way against this. We're not meeting violence with violence, we're meeting it with absurdity. We're meeting it with Portland values. And I'm so proud of the way the city has responded to try and just throw sand in the gears of this administration.
What about your future as council president? What are your priorities?
My immediate priority is to set up systems that actually serve the city. We have a lot of work to do, and this new system has had our first year. We had our growing pains, and now we're in year 2. We have to start meaningfully responding to some of the new challenges that are showing up. We're doing a good job of getting the administration to work together as one city, you know, getting rid of the silos. I want the city council to now be able to be a body that can meaningfully respond and get legislation moving forward without a lot of infighting or process. I want to reform our committee structure. I think that having committees means we have really deliberative policy work, but we have too many committees right now. I want to reduce the number, give councilors the opportunity to have more debate, have more time to work on the back and forth of lawmaking. And I want to make sure that we are actually doing the work that is necessary right now. We have some very serious and specific challenges as a community outside of the ones we've already talked about, and we have to really start getting the gears moving.
An exciting time, though, for
Absolutely.
Portland. A lot of changes coming up. We were talking about the Rose Festival, the waterfront. everything else that we're going to have to deal with right now that has to be treated differently than in the past.
Absolutely. I mean, there are real challenges in our community, no doubt. We have to get a better system to deal with homelessness. We have 1,000 people who are getting housed every month, but 1,400 people are falling into homelessness in Portland alone every month. That's unacceptable, and that is something that we really have to figure out. How are we working better to get that? We have to get the economy moving. We have to get the city's infrastructure maintained and parks maintained and all of these bridges fixed. But we also have a lot of really good things that are happening in our community. You know, the future of OMSI is going to be really exciting. The future of the Broadway corridor where the old post office site used to be, or hopefully with the renovations to the Moda Center, the future of the Lloyd Center and the new music venue that's going to be going in there. Mm-hmm. There are all these pieces that are happening and falling into place that mean that the next decade in Portland is going to be exceptionally exciting, and that the city that we know is possible is going to be here. But we have to run full speed at those things and really embrace it and not get bogged down by the doom loop narrative. I think that we're really at the cusp of what Portland's next great chapter is going to be.
So we're going in the right direction. Overall, we're going in the right direction.
There are things that are going in the right direction, absolutely. You know, the economy is in a rough shape. Small businesses are struggling. Homelessness is still growing. Our backlog of due maintenance for our infrastructure is huge. And the future of the Blazers is uncertain. But I'm not naturally an optimist. I've been in public service for 20 years, so it's kind of been beaten out of me, but I'm truly hopeful at this moment. I really think that there is going to be some great things that are going to happen in this community, and that Portland will be on full display in a way that we know that she can be.
Portland City Council President Jamie Dunphy, thank you, sir, for joining us. Good to hear from you.
Thank you, Joe.